Coverage of the 2018 Commonwealth Games. Brought to you by Manx Radio and Manx Telecom.
And a very good morning to you back in the Isle of Man. It's just gone 9 minutes past 8 if you are listening from the island, and we're broadcasting live from Australia's Gold Coast for today at the Games. My name is Chris Cave, and today is Friday the 13th, a date considered unlucky for some, but would it prove to be so for the Manx athletes who are competing down under? We've also got Jo Pack with us, but considering we're both in the same country, I haven't seen Jo for 4 days. I trust she is still alive. Jo Pack, where are you?
Well, don't worry, you did speak to me 24 hours ago, so all is good. I've been on a little mission to get to the Athletes Village, actually, where I am sat in, the bar area, actually, of the Athletes Village. I can't believe I'm even saying that. I'll be talking to Rosemary shortly. However, we're going to look first of all at Joe Harris and how he got on earlier in the day with competing in javelin at the Carrara Stadium. Well, Joe did feel disappointed with his throw, finishing 16th place, and I managed to catch up with him and just find out how he felt that he got on.
It was an incredible atmosphere, so it was a privilege to at least compete in the competition, but for me today it just didn't go as planned, and it just didn't happen.
What was your game plan coming into today?
Been a bit ill, so it's just take advantage of the atmosphere and see how it went, but just didn't catch one. It just didn't work for me. So
very tough competition out there, but what will you take away from this event that you've just competed in today?
First 3 throws are the most important. I mean, if you don't get going in the start, you don't really get going at all. So
how did you feel after your first throw?
I felt confident at the first throw. I thought I could dial it up, and then the second, similar to the first one, but I just didn't catch it at the end. I lost my rhythm. I went too early on my strides, and then I just, with the time limit, I knew I'd just messed it up. So I just kind of throw, and then that was it.
How has it been waiting around all this time when everyone else is competing and you're really out one of the last?
I knew that was going to be the case anyway, so it wasn't really expected. It was just didn't happen on the day, and that's it.
Okay, so what's next then? We're going back to the island, you go back to the UK. What's next?
Yeah, back into some training, and then just get ready for the UK season. I'll start late April, probably throw a comp at Loughborough, and then see how it goes from there.
Well, Joe did finish in 16th, just 2 places from qualifying, so he should be incredibly proud of his achievement there. So, Chris, with you now, we're talking about Jess Lee, who was playing last night.
Well, Jess Lee was in badminton action in the round of 16 women's singles last night at the Carrara Stadium, and she was playing Saina Nehwal of India, a 23-time pro title winner. She's got a bronze medal at the Olympics in the past, and let's not forget she's won 2 Commonwealth Games gold medals previously as well. So Jess Lee was always up against it against Nehwal. Well, the first game took around 10 minutes. It finished 21-4 to Nehwal of India, and towards the end of that match, Team Isle of Man badminton player Jess Lee went over on her ankle, and it looked quite serious from the moment it happened. She looked to be struggling. Well, she did battle on, but 4 minutes into the second game with the score at 2-love to Nehwal, Jess Lee retired hurt. She was in too much discomfort to continue, so her team and herself took the decision to retire. She couldn't continue, so we wish her all the best in her recovery. But it does mean for Jess Lee, and indeed all of the Team Isle of Man badminton players, that is the end of their 2018 Commonwealth Games journey. But they've had some fun in the process, notably Ben and Jess Lee, who went up against Lee Chong Wei. That's who Ben Lee faced, the Malaysian superstar of the sport, you would say. And last night, Jess Lee, unfortunately, it ended early for her against Saina Nehwal, but what an experience for her. And let's not forget as well Kim Clegg, who played Michelle Lee of Canada, who seeded second. So they've played some fantastic players in the badminton. Unfortunately, they've not got the results they would have hoped for, but they're probably, if we're honest, the results they expected. But they've had a great time, and they've not disgraced themselves. But unfortunately, that is the end of their 2018 Commonwealth Games journey.
Well, I have heard how good the coffee is. Apparently it's supposed to be the best in the world here in Australia. And I did come across a little coffee van that reminded me of Flo, the coffee van that we have on the Isle of Man. So I had to speak to the owner, Lou, and we started talking about exactly where she was.
It's an incredible location, and I have to actually park away from the beach, because if I'm looking at it, I will not be here. I will be in the water.
Well, you were yesterday when the BBC caught up with you.
I was indeed.
What happened there?
I had a sneaky little dip in my undies and got caught out.
And then suddenly the BBC are filming inside, your coffee van. And we have something very similar called Flow on the Isle of Man. Annabelle Gentry, she's very successful as a local business and quite retro. I've just been showing you some photos and trying to connect you, because you're doing similar things, aren't you?
We are, and instantly I felt connected to her photos. I love her little setup she's got going on, and good for her. It's so good to see women out there doing things for themselves and really making a living.
What do you think of the Commonwealth Games being here in town?
It's been amazing. I don't think it's been as big as they expected it to be. I think the media kind of scared everyone out of town, but from what I've experienced here on the beach, I've had amazing connections with people, and that's all I can ask for, is really meeting some really lovely people and having a moment.
So what types of people have you met?
Oh, families, crazies. There goes some kids in some sombreros. We've got the mascot here, and lots of people come take photos. We've had the police horses here, lots of the volunteers and workers and paramedics, and yeah, it's been incredible.
How much do you love doing what you do?
I love it. I love it. I'm actually a musician. My band is Banks of the Beautiful, and every cup of coffee that I sell, the funds pretty much go 90% towards funding my musical project. So yeah, I love it. And I want to give everyone a little hug in a cup, because when you get that good drink and you just take the first sip and it's incredible, it's like, oh, this is so good.
Everybody's told me that Australia knows how to do coffee. It's the best in the world. I'm guessing you agree with that.
Well, I'm just going to take all the credit and say thank you.
That was Lou Starr and her coffee van there, talking to Jo Pack. It's nice to know that she doesn't just drink alcohol, because at the start of the programme she told us she's in the bar at the Athletes' Village. That's nice for some, isn't it? I'm here just about to catch some of the basketball this evening, Canada versus England, so that should be a fantastic encounter. Unfortunately, the Isle of Man does not have any basketball or netball teams in the 2018 Commonwealth Games, but it should be an entertaining fixture, to say the least. Well, you can catch up with some exclusive content by going to Manx Radio's Facebook page, or to follow us on Twitter, and of course there's exclusive video content which is updated daily on the manxradio.com portal, and to find that just go to manxradio.com/portal. So we've heard from Jo Harris, we've had an update on how the badminton players have done. Well, after this we'll hear more from the shooters, because there's been a full day's action at the Belmont Shooting Centre, but let's have some adverts.
Coverage of the 2018 Commonwealth Games, brought to you by Manx Radio and Manx Telecom.
And welcome back to Today at the Games. We're broadcasting live from Australia's Gold Coast. Myself, Chris Cave, and Jo Pack, who is at the Athletes' Village. Now, before we catch up with the day's shooting action, the only sport the Isle of Man has won a medal in so far, Jo Pack is at the Athletes' Village with Rosemary Kinley, who's very much part of the swimming team, who have done it. How's it going, Jo?
Yes, absolutely fantastic to be here with Rosemary. And Rosemary, first of all, you're looking so well and brown.
Oh, thank you very much, Jo. I'd just like to point out that it's not down to me that we're meeting in the bar this evening. That was your idea, and we're both sitting here with a large glass of water each.
We certainly are. We're going to have to take a photo, actually post that about that. I think we need to just reflect a little bit, because I haven't had the chance to catch up with you, just obviously now the swim's all finished. How do you feel it went? And you need to sum that up in about 1 minute.
Okay, it was an incredible 6 days at the pool. Obviously, we'd had the opportunity to do all the preparation in Sunshine Coast and here in the Gold Coast prior to competition. And what a 6 days at the pool, for having a team of 5 swimmers, and each one exceeded my expectation anyway. To everyone took part in a semi-final or a final, and their performance was tremendous. They have been absolute professionals. I'm delighted with them, and they've been an absolute pleasure to be with.
Now, you're team manager, but you're mum as well, and you've had to deal with being a mum and a team manager with your daughter Laura. Just how have you managed that?
Oh, it's been quite easy really. Laura and I, we're used to sort of being on poolside together, but I have to admit to one particular mum moment when she swam in her heats of the 100-metre breaststroke, and she has tried for a very long time to be the first Manx woman under 70 seconds in the 100 metres breaststroke, and she's achieved that now. So I had a wee tear in my eye, but I am so proud of all 5 of them. They've been absolutely wonderful.
What have they been doing to have some downtime and relax now that they have finished?
Well, obviously it was a very busy 6 days. So when we finished on Tuesday evening after that wonderful relay final, they were exhausted the next day. But since then, they took me off to a water park yesterday, where I felt very safe with excellent swimmers there looking after me. And today they've disappeared off, and they've just had a bit of downtime where they can go to the shops, enjoy themselves, and just have a well-deserved rest. Other than, I have to mention Charlotte, who, as she's now been selected for the European Championships, poor Charlotte's actually being dragged away for 2 hours a day training, but she doesn't mind. She's doing it with a smile on her face, and that's a swimmer's life for you.
It certainly is, and you're going to be going home shortly, but first of all, there's the closing ceremony. You must be looking forward to that.
Oh, absolutely. I think the opening, although it was a wonderful experience, we got away very quickly because our nerves were starting a little bit, knowing that competition in the pool started the next morning. So when we go to that closing ceremony, we'll be able to just relax and enjoy it all.
Well, I think the swimming team have done so incredibly well, and I know we'll be reflecting on that in our review on Sunday on the show. But back to you, Chris, to talk about more shooting.
Well, it's been another busy day for the shooters at the Belmont Shooting Centre. Rachel Glover, who came 6th in the women's 50-metre rifle prone final yesterday, and Gemma Kermode were both in action today, competing in the women's 3rd position qualification. Rachel Glover came in 11th place with a score of 570, just 3 off qualification, whilst Gemma Kermode was 13th, 2 behind Rachel on 559. Also in action were the men in the trap qualification. David Walton, a medal winner at the Commonwealth Games in the past, back in 2006, if you can cast your minds back. He finished in 14th position on 45, and there was little to choose between him and his teammate from Team Isle of Man, Neil Parsons, who ended the day with a score of 43, 6 places behind David Walton in 20th position, and that was the middle of the pack out of 40 shooters. So that rounds up the shooting action for today, where still shooting remains the only sport in which Team Isle of Man have won a medal. That came courtesy, of course, of Tim Neal on Wednesday, when he became the Isle of Man's first ever 2-time Commonwealth Games medal winner, after winning a silver in the men's double trap. And if you remember, I spoke to Chief Minister Howard Quayle yesterday. I did ask him cheekily if anybody in the Isle of Man can expect a national holiday in Tim Neal's honour, considering he is the first ever person in Manx history to win 2 medals at 2 separate Commonwealth Games, but he said no. We are on day 9 of the Commonwealth Games, so there's not that long today to go in terms of sporting action. And Joe has been speaking to one of the organisers, Mark Howell.
It's not a bad place, is it? I mean, how many times would you love to go on holiday and have a backdrop like that? Superb place to host the games.
It really is. I want to talk to you a little bit about your job, because you've been based out here for 15 months. However, obviously you're not Australian, you are from the UK. So let's talk a little bit about your background. Just tell me a little bit about you.
Oh, well, really sport. Sport and music are my background. Spent a long time in the music industry, and then really sport. Starting with the sailing team. So my first games was Atlanta, which makes me sound like I was about 150 years of age, but of course the games is every 2 years now. So between winter games and summer games, I've done 7 of those now, Olympic games, Commonwealth Games, Tour de France, round the world yacht races. So I've been absolutely so lucky to have a job that's involved me with my passion, which is sport and major events.
So coordinating an event like this, just how much has it changed over the years?
Oh, hugely. I mean, you think back to how games were put together. As they've become more popular, have there been more influences on them, more commercial influence on them? Obviously, the ability for the host city to leverage the opportunity more. It just means that the job's got bigger and bigger, and actually more interesting as a result of it. And of course, technology has allowed us to really take those moments and the pictures to the world, which means that you've just got to be much more in depth about your planning, and really it's a truly global thing now. You don't, any event you go to is the chance to amplify around the world.
What was it like when the Gold Coast found out that they'd won the bid?
Oh, I think they were euphoric. It was fantastic. This is the 6th largest city in Australia, and it's the first regional city in Australia to have hosted the Games. So previously Brisbane has hosted the Games, Melbourne has hosted the Games, but now the Gold Coast here in Queensland, a city of 600,000 people, has got its moment to shine. So it's a great opportunity for the Gold Coast. And actually, it's got a great sporting pedigree. We see the International Triathlon Union hosting events here. The Brownlee brothers, who'll be known back in the UK, have competed here for years. But then you look at the history that it has with British sport. Team GB were here prior to the 2000 Games. I was involved with the British Olympic Association then, and we had our training camp in 1999 and 2000 here on the Gold Coast. So that's where Denise Lewis, Jonathan Edwards, Steve Redgrave, Matthew Pinsent, all of these iconic British sports stars got preparation before going down to Sydney, and of course that was such a massive success for British sport.
Mark Howell, one of the organisers there, speaking to Joe. Well, the Isle of Man is synonymous with those on two-wheeled machines. Usually those are motorised in terms of the TT, but we have a wealth of success also in cycling. Mark Cavendish and Peter Kenyock, Peter Kenyock, I should say. I'm getting confused with Tim Neal. But tomorrow is the road race, and the women's road race takes place from 7:45 in the morning. It's based in Currumbin, which is about 45 minutes away from Broadbeach, where myself and Joe are based, and taking place for the Isle of Man. The captain of the Commonwealth Games team in 2018, Anna Christian, she'll be competing, and of course Elizabeth Holden, who has a wealth of experience in terms of Manx cycling. She's now bringing that to the Commonwealth Games. And then from 12:30, Jake Kelly, the Isle of Man flag bearer. We have professional cyclists Sam Brand, Thomas and Leon Mazzoni, and Nathan Draper will be contesting in the men's race. And the 6th member of that team was confirmed this afternoon, and that will be Matthew Bostock, who's already competed on the track at this Games, and he didn't have the best of times he described in the points race. If you remember, I spoke to him after that, but he's looking to bounce back, and what a perfect opportunity that is for him tomorrow in that road race. Let's hear from Joe before we leave.
Yes, I am still in the Athletes Village, and we've got lots of content for you on our social media, as Chris said earlier. So make sure that you do take a look at Manx Radio's Facebook page and Twitter, and also manxradio.com/portal. We'll be back with you tomorrow.